one of the highly talented members of the highly talented group of Good Morning Football, right here to kick off hour number 3 of the Rich Eisen Show in New York. It's Kyle Brandt, everybody. Good to see you, sir.
Rich, I am thrilled to be here, but what am I doing here?
What do you mean, what are you doing here?
Michael Irvin.
That's true.
Barry Sanders.
Correct.
Kurt Warner.
Right.
And the guy that makes Schrager giggle in the morning was on Days of Our Lives.
The guy.
What am I doing here?
Don't forget Real World. Don't forget season 11 of Real World, Kyle.
You're rapping about
Pivotal
the
season.
Chiefs.
That's right. I am rapping.
Yes.
But hold on. Let me. I have told you this before.
Yes.
Also falling under the what am I doing here. This show has the best guests day in, day out. It is a cavalcade of movie stars. Who dropped out for me to get the spot? Was it Daniel Day-Lewis?
Nobody. Daniel Day-Lewis. No.
Did he drop out?
Actually, his right foot dropped out.
Is that true?
It's very odd.
Foot too.
It's the only he talks about his left one.
That's the famous foot. But this is awesome to be here.
What do you mean? It didn't drop out. I reached out to you a few days ago.
You did. And I want to fan out on you, Rich.
Okay.
I went on Dan Patrick's show about a year ago, and I wanted to fan out on him. I didn't get to do it.
Dan who?
Dan Patrick. I think it was in the same spot. I want to fan out on you.
That was my Jerry Jones imitation. Sorry.
Dan who? Yeah. I've watched a lot of you, Rich.
Okay.
Early 2000s, a lot of ESPN, a lot of SportsCenter.
Yes.
I've always loved what you do.
Thanks,
I love
brother.
it. This is very cool for me to be here talking
Thank you.
to. Very cool. And I think you have, if I may,
Yes.
I think you have one of the truly underappreciated This is SportsCenter commercials.
Okay, which one is that?
Oh.
I think it is the one where you get sent down to the minors.
Oh, gosh.
All right? And it's fantastic. I used to watch this all the time. And you're sitting there, and it's during high school announcements, and Dan's there, and we had to send Rich down.
Right.
And the girl sitting next to you, and she goes, "Take it away, Rich." And you go, "Thank you, Courtney. Let's see that James K. Polk pride, and all JV wrestlers turn in your uniforms to coach by the end of the week." It's great.
I know.
It's a great one.
And then the girl turns to me and goes, "Do you go to this school?" I don't think you even go to this school.
Right. It's a great one.
Fun backstory.
Tell me.
It's funny that you mentioned Dan Patrick.
Okay.
Because that was about like year 2, year 3 for me at SportsCenter, and I was very sensitive to the fact that I was the one chosen to be sent down.
I hear you.
Okay, like I'm being very honest. I told a very honest story the other day about a SportsCenter commercial where they would not let me wash my hands coming out of the bathroom, and I was particularly sensitive because I worked my ass off to attain what I thought a certain level of SportsCenter, and there were others who had been hired after me. Mm-hmm. Why am I the one being sent down to high school? And Dan pulled me aside.
What's he say?
Get over it. Essentially, I mean, that was his message, was get over it. This is a funny commercial. Get over it. You know,
Did you
like
have
we're
thoughts
not
on who
really.
should have gone down?
Say it again.
Did you have thoughts on who else should have been sent down?
Of course I did.
What did you do? Send
Kyle.
Charlie
Let's go.
Steiner?
Name drop.
No,
Name drop.
I don't
Name
know.
drop.
I don't remember. Pretty much name anybody, including our first hour guest tomorrow, and Mike Greenberg. He was
Sure.
hired after
Send
me.
him
Name
down.
anybody hired after me. They should be sent down to the minors.
But you got the good role, though, Rich. You had the good lines.
Well, I had great lines, you know, where they asked me to buy them beer.
Yeah.
You know, all of that stuff. And we shot it in an actual high school. And it was tough for me to go through it. But I gutted it out. And it's now one of your favorite SportsCenter. But Dan literally was just like, pulled me aside, like, what's the matter with you?
This is great. Suck it up.
Exactly.
Did you feel the same way about the role when you interrupted the broadcast with the Williams sisters' beads when you were behind camera? Do you remember that one too?
Yes.
Because I have encyclopedic knowledge of the SportsCenter
I have
commercials.
not
This is
remembered that one.
impressive.
Yes,
Tell
the Williams
what it
sisters
is.
were there.
There's
I
a
remember
SportsCenter
that.
going on,
Right.
And I'm not sure. I think it's Dan and somebody else. And there's all this noise off set, and you're getting your hair beaded by the Williams sisters,
sisters,
and it
right.
interrupts them.
And I had hair.
Those were the
That's
days.
how funny.
I didn't even think about that.
These days, wouldn't be able to do that commercial.
It's also a good one, though.
If the Williams sisters wanted to reboot that,
Sure.
2.0,
A sequel.
wouldn't be able to do it.
Sorry,
But
I went there, Rich.
No, not at all. No, I'd forgotten about that one.
It's a good one.
I'd
It's so
forgotten.
fun.
Well, in the green room of our show back in Los Angeles,
Yeah.
we do because I've had this on the back of a chair of any place I've ever had an office since then, is the Kid Eisen shirt or that Lou Duva wore and the robe, the silk, the cornerman silk that Lou Duva wore in the SportsCenter commercial where they came in during the commercial break and I couldn't read the prompter, cut me Lou, cut me, and I did ad lib spitting out with my pinky extended. And the funny thing is when you watch that commercial is they bleep out Lou Duva, the famous cornerman, because they had to. They could not find 3 to 4 continuous safe for work seconds to actually edit into the commercial because he was acting himself.
Right.
And he would curse up a blue streak, so they had to bleep him out for the commercial. So he took off the silk, and I remember they just left it on the side, and I'm like, can I have that? They're like, sure. So I've had it to this day.
I eat this up. This behind the music of these SportsCenter commercials. When they would come to you guys with an idea, like, was it really kind of antsy about who gets to be in it, who gets to do what? It must be.
Kyle, Brandt, they would come up with a campaign.
Yeah.
We would hear that the commercial campaign was coming, and we all didn't say a word, but all SportsCenter anchors, are you doing one of the spots? Like, yeah. And then Dan would eventually say, yeah, I'm doing like 3 or 4. Dan would just like drop it, share it, knowing that what sort of ripple in our pond that would leave,
What a master. Modern master.
Please. And we would compare notes like who's in what, how many lines do you have? And then the people from ESPN who are part of the Wyden and Kennedy ad agency, they would have like this big loose leaf booklet of all the scripts of the 10 spots that we're gonna have, and they would literally hold it up like a poker hand to their chest to make sure nobody could see the cards.
It was like handcuffed to their wrist.
It was really just like that.
That's so good.
There was one spot that Stuart and I ad-libbed, like totally ad-libbed, and it was when they came up and they were shooting commercials like around November. And we asked them, like, how come there's never been like a holiday-themed SportsCenter commercial campaign? They're like, well, we just never really thought of it. We're like, well, we have an idea for one.
Beautiful.
And we, had an idea for one, and they're like, is there a script? We're like, no, we'll just do it. And we're like, roll the cameras.
Yeah.
And we told them what the idea was. I was at my cubicle, which was my real workspace. Stuart would come up to me because he had an office.
Sure.
And I'm at my workspace typing away on a script, and he would come up to me and present to me a holiday gift.
Okay.
And I opened it up, and it was my IFB, my earpiece.
Sure.
And I put it in, and it fit me and everything. How'd you know, Stuart?
How'd you know my size?
That's what I said to him. How'd you know? And he just like, just cause, essentially what it was. And then we would look at each other. We did this. Looked at each other, paused, gave this quick bro hug, and then backed off. Happy holidays,
Oh, that's
man.
beautiful.
And then he walked away. One take, done. And I've seen it on the air once, and I have not seen it again. I would love to see that spot.
Yeah, I feel terrible. I don't remember this one. I thought I knew them all.
I'm telling you, they aired it, hardly aired it.
Not on YouTube, I don't think.
I don't think so.
Huh.
It's just, you could look it up. Rich, Stu, SportsCenter, Christmas. And they even had like the little jingle in the back, and the date at the bottom looked like it was around Christmas. You know, always the date and time.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
And you guys were full producers on that.
They didn't even have it in their little script that they're holding to their chest.
So it makes me one of the other ESPN guys were like, oh, great. Now like Eisen and Scott are coming up with their own stuff. They're breaking the rules.
Bad. And I would pull a Dan, just walk around. Yeah, we just came up with our own one.
Good. All day. I love that stuff, man.
Well, great. Look, and I appreciate you bringing that up.
Of course.
But it's to be about you and
I want to fan
the show.
out.
No, and everybody is fanning out on Good Morning Football. I mean what I say, that at some point I knew there had to be, another live tentpole.
Yeah.
Tune in, everybody's watching. And last year in London, it was me and Irv, and we met with the Jacksonville Brass before the game that we were calling.
Yeah.
And the Jaguar players would come in, walk right past me and Irv and everybody else, went right up to Peter.
Everybody loves Schrags, dude.
No, but it was the show.
Was it?
Yeah, because it is on television sets in every locker room.
I know.
There's no question about it.
I know.
So what you were doing in your first few months, where you just figured you'd just throw stuff against the wall and nobody's seeing it anyway.
Yeah.
Not anymore, sir.
No. Now we get crazy. Sometimes the nickname for the show is Total Excess, like because we go wild. I call it that
NFL
sometimes.
Total Excess,
right?
I love that
because it is excessive, and it is. We get these screen caps sometimes from inside the facilities.
Yes.
And you start to think, wow, so Richard Sherman is really sitting there watching that, and we just had a segment that was sort of critical of Richard Sherman a little bit. It makes you feel about that big, but then I don't know. What am I supposed to do? Not do it? We just own it.
I think players, if they feel it is fair, and if you are having fun and not making fun, I think players absolutely can handle it.
I do too.
There's no doubt about it. Certainly, if they know that the core of it is a love of the game and that what you're doing is not just for the sake of having fun at their expense.
Yeah.
I think players will absolutely be
I
able
think
to take
so. Chris Collinsworth came on the show once, and he said, I like what you guys do because football should be fun. And that kind of became our de facto motto, football should be fun.
Right.
It is, because it gets real heavy sometimes, especially these days. But we try to have fun every day, every segment.
Well, I mean, Kyle Brandt here on the Rich Eisen Show. When we did start the NFL Network, everyone was calling it the No Fun League. And a lot of people might still do that right now, I understand. But, the idea was to have fun right from the get-go. And the commercial campaigns, you talk about SportsCenter, it was the same people with, Steve Bornstein, who launched the NFL Network from ESPN, brought in Judy Fearing, who was behind a lot of the SportsCenter commercials. She was the one who came up with the Big Man Dance Challenge commercial that we had at the start of the NFL Network. We also, had the NFL Total Access spots with Dear Mr. Fantasy playing in the background.
Sure. What about It's Good to Be Rich? That was
that one.
You and Deuce McAllister looking at watches. I mean, that's a great shot. What a frozen moment in time. That's a great. That's
where I looked through a loop and looked at him and just gave him a head nod, like I agreed with the bling he was buying.
Deuce McAllister got this giant cable knit sweater on. It's baggy as hell. It's so 15 years ago, and this watch just looks gaudy as all get out. But you're looking and you're like, yeah, Deuce, that's it. I'm like, that's a cool commercial.
In the cold tub, that's the one.
The cold tub. Was with Chris Samuels of Washington.
Samuels.
Yeah, man. And that was a real cold tub. My favorite one that I gave my my own wrinkle to, similar to extending the pinky for that SportsCenter one, was looking under the hood for a replay.
Sure, yeah.
And the script called for me to give a thumbs up to the ref. Yeah. I just pulled away and I just gave them, I can't tell.
Rip from the headlines now, Rich.
This could be iffy. I can't help you.
They may want to bring that one back this year.
Yeah, it was instant replay underneath the hood. I'm like, what's that doing there?
I have no idea.
How do you think that's going to work this year?
Dicey. I didn't like the pass interference thing. To me, the bedrock of that, when you're at home and you're on the couch and you're watching your team, did my player's foot come down in green or white? We look at it, it's white. He's out of bounds.
Right.
It's objectivity. It's just so cut and dry. This pass interference thing is nuts. I mean, it really is. And I hope it works out. I'm obviously rooting for it, but I kind of pulled his arm down, but did it affect the catch? I think so. It's just so murky. It's not the second foot came down or it didn't. It's like we're doing Greco-Roman and slow motion, and I'm concerned about it. I am.
Yeah, I am too, because of the unintended consequence in a way. And then you're leaving after Good Morning. I'm on Good Morning Football tomorrow at
2 segments. We're ready for you,
Eastern,
Rich.
where I'm fired up. And then you're heading off to call more Bears games.
Yeah.
How's that been for you, man?
It's nuts. The Chicago Bears did a really cool thing last summer. They said, all right, last year they had 5 preseason games because they played the Hall of Fame game.
Right.
And they said, this is preseason game number 5. I know you've never done play-by-play at any level, which I hadn't, but since it's the 5th preseason game, never mind a traditional broadcast. We'd almost want you to try to do a little version of Good Morning Football. Make it like a podcast about the Bears. Don't worry that it's 2nd and 6 and Tyler Bray threw incomplete. Just be you. I did it. I got the plane down somehow, and they invited me back. So I do the last preseason game, and now nobody plays. And so it's just me, Jim Miller, and Dave Wanstead chopping it up about the Bears for 3 hours. It's incredible. Yeah, Wanstead's coming on with me. That old mustache, we're going to tell Zach Thomas stories and get into it. We love it. I've heard Wanstead has got great stories. Yes. And I grew up in the Chicago suburbs when he was head coach, so I remember it really, really well. So that'll be tomorrow, Thursday night, Soldier Field, like the mansion of my dreams. It's an incredible thing.
Yeah, Wanstead was the Bears coach when we first came on the air, and and he had some classic press conferences that we kept on replaying over and over just for giggles in between takes for Total Access. I remember that. He's probably got some really great stories.
Does. And, he had the mustache before everyone was doing it. Now it's so cool and ironic. He always had it. And he's actually been in the headlines this week, Rich. I was thinking about this.
What do you got?
Well, we're talking about we're talking about unforeseen retirements.
Yes.
And everyone's talking Barry and Calvin Johnson. The Ricky Williams one was nuts. When Wanstead was coaching with Miami Dolphins, and I felt like it was 10 minutes before the season, Ricky said, I'm just done. And he had his convictions about the weed and whatnot, but I want to hear Wanstead's take on that because that blew my mind.
You know what? It's funny. We had Junior Seau on Dolphins cam.
Oh my gosh.
Just as this was breaking. Okay, on Total Access, and anybody out there who's watching on NFL Network knows exactly where I'm going with this one.
Okay,
and we told him look, we have to ask Junior a Ricky Williams question. Even though, it's not good news for the Dolphins and, we're turning the page, the quintessential, we're only talking about the people who are here type thing.
Totally.
And they're like, fine, he's ready for it. So I asked the question, and he called me Rick in response and called me Rick the rest of the interview.
Rick Eisen show. I like it.
And we were wondering if that was just his way of protesting.
Sure.
And I said, I think if he was protesting, he would have called me Dick.
That's good.
You know what I mean? Like, if you're going to mess up my name, but he called me Rick the entire time. So I was
good.
Rick on the set for a very long time. Anytime Junior Seau came up, it's Rick. Here's Rick.
That's amazing.
I know. Because he definitely called me Rich to start. Thanks, Rich.
And then he transferred to Rick.
That he did.
It reminds
After
me
the
of
Ricky Williams
Judd
question.
Nelson and Breakfast Club. Excuse me, Dick. I'm sorry. Rich, will milk be made available to us? Maybe Junior Seau was going deep there.
I didn't think that
He ricked you.
He did. I got Rick rolled in a way.
Have you ever been Rick at any point of your life? It's kind of a cool name.
Not to my face.
It feels so different than Rich.
Watch it to my face. It was Junior Seau to my face.
And a Junior Seau of all people asking about Ricky Williams,
I know.
Huge contrast.
He was not happy about it back in the day. Hey, man, this went really fast because it was a lot of fun, as always, and I look forward to returning the favor by coming on Good Morning Football tomorrow.
I'm thrilled to have you, Rick. It's going to be great.
And as a matter of fact, here's Daniel Day-Lewis showing up here on the Broadway. Hey, ready? It's called Callbacks. There's callbacks everywhere. Peter Schrager, Nate Burleson, Kay Adams, every single weekday, 7 a.m. Eastern, only on NFL Network. At Kyle Brandt on Twitter,
Please.
at Kyle Brandt NFL on Instagram.
For more of The Rich Eisen Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV for free on BR Live or download the Rich Eisen Show app.